In the initial leg of our trip, we embarked on a thrilling 20-day journey from New York State to Seattle, Washington, exploring 5 Rail Trail Hall of Fame trails and visiting iconic parks. If you missed part 1, you can catch up by clicking the link above or in the video description below. Now, in part 2, our adventure continues as we explore the unique Olympic Peninsula, the majestic Redwoods of Northern California, and make our way back home through Tahoe, Moab, Utah, and the Midwest. Along the way, we'll conquer another 7 bike trails. So buckle up and let's dive into the second half of our unforgettable trip. We decided to take the ferry across the Puget Sound instead of driving the extra hour around. For some reason, as we were heading toward the ferry, the GPS was giving us stupid directions, so when we got there, we were a little stressed. And the woman was saying, Randy, get 2 inches from the edge of the wall. They said the trip over was going to take 40 minutes, but it seemed like it went a lot faster than that. Maybe they meant from loading to unloading. Once we got docked, getting off the ferry seemed like it went awful fast, and soon we were on our way to Port Angeles, Washington, which was about an hour away. Our campground is perfectly located for what we'd planned to do. But although the amenities were good, the bathroom and the laundry, the sites were really close together, and there wasn't anything on our site but dirt and rocks everywhere. So we didn't really spend any time sitting outside, but we were busy doing other things, so it didn't really matter. It was a day of light rain, so we decided we'd drive out to Neah Bay, which is the farthest point west in the continental U.S. We didn't realize the road we took was a twisted, turny, crazy mess. It took us almost 2 hours to get here, but it was well worth it, as we walked the 3/4 of a mile through the forest to Cape Flattery. I don't have any clue why I wore my water shoes on this hike, because I have pretty wet feet now.
This has been really beautiful. It was a 2-hour really rough, curvy, bumpy ride, and we're thinking, why are we doing this all the way down, until you get here.
When you're on the Olympic Peninsula, nothing is close by. We drove 2 hours to Ruby Beach. Ruby Beach is one of the most beautiful and photographed beaches in the Northwest. It's called Ruby Beach because of the ruby-like crystals in the beach sand, and the sea stacks were magnificent. Next up was the Hoh Rainforest. The park was so busy they were metering parking, and we sat outside the gate for about an hour. And once you make the turn into the park, it's about 25 miles before you even get to the guard gate and another 10-minute drive to the parking area. But once you get there, you'll know the wait was well worth it. It was a beautiful place. Of course, since we were driving right through, we had to stop in Forks to get a Twilight souvenir. First bike ride on the Olympic Discovery Trail was to ride from a couple of miles away from where we were staying to the east, about a 31-mile round-trip ride. We started out going straight downhill and straight back up again. And the first 3 miles were basically up and down and up and down. What's the matter? Oh, I should turn, huh? I've got so much anxiety about going up and down those big flipping hills because I'm sure I'm gonna fall and Rainey's gonna speed bump right over the top of me, which I hope not. I've got to learn to calm down or I will fall. They only let 300 cars a day go up to Hurricane Ridge, so we did that first thing. We wandered around a while and then went to ride the Spruce Railroad Trail. This part of the Olympic Discovery Trail was way different than the ride we'd had the day before. The lake was just absolutely beautiful. We've never seen anything bluer, and the trail was perfect. We decided we still wanted to ride a little bit more, so on the way back to our campground, we stopped at the 9/11 Memorial Park and rode about 8 miles round trip on the Olympic Discovery Trail, through Port Angeles, out to the Coast Guard station on Eddy's Hook. Next up was Portland, Oregon, and our first stay in a state campground. We were really impressed. There was lots of room between the camp areas, and we wished we'd spent more nights in places like this. On the Banks Veronia State Trail, you were either going uphill or downhill, depending on which way you're going. The bikers going downhill went as fast as they possibly could, and those that weren't moving were usually stopped in the middle of the trail.
It's just ridiculous. These people going downhill, they gotta be going 30 miles an hour. And the corners, if anybody's walking side by side talking, they're dead.
Our second state park stay was just as nice as the first. We wish we'd spent another day here as well. We were really looking forward to our hike on the Trail of 10 Falls. We were a little nervous because we were going to hike 8 miles, but it was a loop, so we didn't have to actually backtrack or see the same things twice. We were able to see 8 of the 10 falls. We missed one because I was directionally challenged, and I guess we walked right by the 10th fall coming back.
Be careful. Face planting would not be. In Northern California, we drove through the Smith River Complex fire, and it was about an 86,000 acre fire that had been raging nearby. We were lucky that someone several days before had told us about an app to monitor this. We had to be escorted through the fire area, and we stopped only for about 20 minutes to wait for our turn in line, but it took us an hour to go the 10 miles through the fire zone. We were never really in any danger, but there was a brief section where there were active embers. It was nice camping in the Redwoods, but we couldn't get the RV to level in the first site they assigned us. We ended up moving and had a small audience that was watching us. We drove about 60 miles south of our campsite to go through the Avenue of the Giants. It's a 32-mile journey through the largest remaining old-growth virgin redwoods in the world. We decided we had to do something silly and pay $15 to drive through a redwood tree. We don't know how anybody could get through this tree in anything bigger than the Jeep that we had.
We drove about an hour north of our campsite to the Trees of Mystery. It was really interesting because we got to climb up into the trees and see it from a different perspective. One small trauma was we stopped for lunch right across the street and we got back in the Jeep, it wouldn't start. So we fussed with it for about an hour and finally got going again. On the way to Reno, because we were going up and down big mountains, we unhooked the Jeep and drove that separately. It was interesting because the chains from snow in the winter had dug ruts into the lanes. I felt like I was a water skier crossing the wake of a boat. We really enjoyed our ride on this trail. Not only because we could ride along the beautiful river, but we also rode along the edge of Lake Tahoe. It was pretty crowded on the path with weekend bikers who didn't know what they were doing.
Don't fall down.
It's really rocky. There's no wading very far out.
Is it cold?
It's pretty cold. The historic Wendover Airfield was famous because it was a top-secret base in its day and it trained the pilots to drop the atomic bomb. This airfield was also used in a few movies: Independence Day as Area 51 and El Toro, and in Con Air. The trail had about a 6 or 7% grade for several miles of it. It wasn't such a big deal with our e-bikes, but it was a climb. Randy's bucket list item was to drive the Schaefer Road, which is about a 25-mile trail through Canyonlands on not paved roads, and they were pretty bumpy. It was just an awe-inspiring drive, though. It took us 4 hours to go those 25 miles.
This is the coolest trail we've been on. Up, down, rocks, mountain goats, enjoying the hell out of it.
We ended up in Glenwood Canyon because one of our YouTube viewers told us we had to go ride the bike trail there. And we were really glad we rearranged the trip to do this because it was just an absolutely fabulous trail. And we liked the area so much, we changed some of our trip coming back to spend another night. We rode 2 sections of the Rio Grande Trail. The first one was up in the northern end near Glenwood Springs, and then for the second end, we got back in the Jeep and went down to Aspen. I thought that would be kind of cool, but it was Aspen Film Festival weekend, so town was jam-packed. We were really lucky. We found a parking spot near the trailhead and just got out of town on the trail as fast as we could. We took a quick sunset ride on the High Trestle Trail just because we wanted to see the bridge lit up at night, and it was definitely worth it.